Hello, and welcome to the second leg of this trip. This is the airport of Ajaccio in Corsica. And we're parked here on the apron. You can see the nice alluring sea on the left-hand side. The mountains of this nice island, quite known for walking, making long treks. Here on the tarmac we have our Airbus A320 parked from Aegean Airlines, Greek national airline. The engine is the plane next to me that you can hear. Our engines haven't started yet, so we'll get started with setting up the aircraft systems, having the passengers on board, the luggage and so on, and planning our trip today to Barcelona. So let's jump into the flight deck and start our preparation for this another hour and a half flight. The flight has been planned in SimBrief as before, as always. In this case, the flight plan in SimBrief gave me quite a bit of a strange routing, so we'll see how we can work around this. Let me show you what I mean. Looking at the flight plan here, you see that we leave the island of Corsica, going to a northwestern direction, and then having turned south again. So this doesn't seem to be like a normal routing would exist between those two. So we'll try to do our standard departure, and at some point we'll assume that ATC will give us a direct to one of the points on the approach for Barcelona. So for all this flight we'll need a bit of fuel and passengers, so let's start with setting all of these things up. On the dashboard in the fly path we connect to SimBrief again and get our weather for this segment. So the winds here are 180, 3 knots, so a runway 22 might be the best possible. Then QNH of 1026 and 13 degrees. In Barcelona the QNH is 1028, 230, the wind 10 knots, quite significant wind there, and 11 degrees. So we'll have to look for the right runway and use in this case. Alright, I mentioned the fuel. Let's have a look at our operational flight plan that has been imported here. We have the fuel planning over here, so 2.8 tons for the trip fuel, a couple of tons for alternate and other reserves. Our block fuel 6.5 tons of fuel, so we'll put 6.5 tons in here, and we can load the fuel on board. So a little bit less fuel than our previous flight, so we'll have a less distance to cover and a little bit shorter flight. Next, let's start with the cockpit preparation. So first of all, we'll check all the levers, whether they're in the right positions. The parking brake is set. We'll check the flaps that they are up. The spoilers are also here, so just in case they were somewhere else, we can turn them to the front. Thrust levers, quick check if they are nice and idle. And the other one is the wipers on top here that we have to check. Okay, so now we can start with our cockpit setup. Initially we'll request to have external power connected to the airplane, and we'll switch on batteries 1 and 2. When this has been connected, we will do a quick test of the APU fire system. which works. So afterwards we will start the APU master switch and then start the APU itself 3 seconds later for the aircraft to provide ourselves with electricity and bleed air. Alright. First thing we do, we'll turn on the lights everywhere so we are sure that we will be able to see all the lights in the cockpit. Also here, increase the lighting intensity. This knob will control our primary flight display, the second one the navigation display. Also here you could set up brightness if necessary. For the ECAM we have 2 buttons here that we can turn to make the contrast more stand out. And then we still have the floodlights here and the backlight for our main panel. Alright. So that's the light setup. What we'll also check is our constraints here on the FCU, left and right. And QNH we can also put in 102426 in Corsica here. Alright. Once this has been set up, we can go over our flow in the overhead panel. So the oxygen for the crew, we turn it on. Test the cockpit voice recorder. We'll align our 3 ADIRs for navigation system. Coming back down here on the lighting side, we will turn on the wing lights, nav and logo lights. In the meantime, we see that we have APU available, which we see here, and we can turn on the APU bleed. So we are getting air conditioning in the cabin. Then the seatbelt signs seem to be on, so we leave that to on. The no smoking auto, we arm the emergency exit lights. We can do a test with all the lights on the overhead panel, but that's correct at the moment. Working our way up, APU started, we can turn on the fuel pumps. We can also turn off the external power. We'll do a test of the engine 1 fire system, engine 2 fire system, and that seems to work. Next we can go on to the MCDU and do the setup here. For this we go to the ATSU page, AOC menu, and init press. Here we do an initial data request. You see we have Ajaccio as our departure, Barcelona destination airport. An estimated time elapsed of 1 hour and 4 minutes. Fuel on board is 6.4, and I would have to check again how much we would have to have on board. 6.4, 6.5. So that matches. We'll go to the data page here. Look at the aircraft status. Active nav database is correct. The other thing we can do at the moment is request the passengers to be boarded, since all the fuel is on board. Wait a moment, request the passengers. Just 174 passengers joining us to Barcelona, and so we'll start boarding. Here you can see how much the weight is being added and how much the zero fuel weight increases. The CG, how that increases. So now we see that we're boarding the last rows. and CG moving aft. So the more that we will board people on the first rows, I would expect the CG to come more forward again. There's a bit of cargo as well, 3.5 tons. So nice to see that being loaded on board as well. So we are having a very aft CG at the moment. Let's hope the plane doesn't tip backwards by loading it this way. So now we go on rows 14 and 21 and still moving the CG aft a little bit more. Let's hope this goes better with loading the first row then. Next, on the init page, here we do a init request for our flight plan to be loaded in the flight management system. Cost index of 34, flight level 330, quite high. The alternate airport is there in France. Flight number 7, so the 7th flight in our tour in Europe. Always happy to add another leg to it in case you have some suggestions, so feel free to leave them in the comments below. Today we're also streaming again to both Twitch and YouTube, so have a look there and subscribe if you like this type of videos. Next is the flight plan. So we'll do a departure here and of course a landing in Barcelona. For our departure, let's have a look at what we have available. This is the route that Assembly proposed to us. If we look at the airport, our departure airport, and the charts that are available, we have a better idea of which sit to take. So this is the airstrip, the runway. We noticed that the wind was coming 180, so runway 20 might be the most logical runway to take off from. For runway 20, which seats are available here. These are RNAV departures, and for now I have taken this TINOT 6 Papa, so runway 20 departures, which will bring us out of the airport and then to TINOT. Let's have a look where that is. And that's already quite high in the north when we are supposed to go more westerly. So as I said, maybe we get a more direct routing. You see 134 miles. It's not to scale, so yeah. Let's take this one. Maybe at Turato we get a different routing and we can do a bit of a shortcut there. Alright, so TINOT 6 Papa is the departure for our runway in use. Let's put it in, departure 20. TINOT 6 Papa, there we go. Insert. Urato, TINOT, and then discontinuity, which I can remove now. For the arrival in Barcelona, we have the weather also from there already. Wind coming from 230, so thinking about the layout of the runways in Barcelona. Let's take the chart 10-9, which is always a nice airport overview. So for wind from 230, then the runways 25 right or 25 left are ideal. So let's take 25 right in this case. The previously planned 7 left I will remove. So approach for 25 right. I'll take an ILS approach in this case. ILS Zulu approach. There's some localizer approaches. RNP approaches, and then on the charts we see that for the RNAV transition we have to go to 11.0D. So basically the approach here starts at Tebla, where we would intercept the localizer. Tebla would have to be at 2,300 feet, but obviously there would be some kind of a approach procedure before doing this. So there's one map for RNAV transitions. I'm not sure if we have any connection to this, to any of these transitions. So looking at our arrival here, let's choose a different runway already to start with. We will do a 255 Zulu arrival. And here we get a couple of proposals from Navigraph, all not super interesting. Let's see how we can do this again. So yeah, this is the type of arrival that we had in mind, the RNAV. So for 25 right, ILS Zulu, we could use, that's the map that we're going to use. Let's have a look here. I think here we'll have to change this to what's all possible. BISBA 1 Zulu. Let's see if that's something that can tie up here. So yeah, we come from BISBA and then we'll go to Bagur, Kalela, and from there we do the approach. So the one echo I will remove. Kalela is a good one to start the approach here. Let's have another look at the other charts. This one can go. Blah. I think we can simulate an arrival by ATC, so runway 25 right arrival. This is what we'll have to do, and from there we'll get vectored from this initial approach fix to the IS. So I will not use the RNAV arrival here. Could be we come in here, we have to do this turnaround, but on each of those stars they're designed in a way that they can give you a shortcut to the localizer, to intercept the localizer. So let's keep the chart for now, but already put in our arrival here in Barcelona. ILS 25 right, and I think we set a Zulu arrival. The star that we are using, or going to use, is BISBA 01 Zulu as well. And I think that will be via CLE Charlie Lima Echo. And enter this one. We'll review before descending. Good. So that's the MCU flight plan page configured. Now for the red navs, what do we need for our takeoff? The takeoff procedure, standard instrument, will be TINOT 2 Papa, which is the same as everything before. So there will be takeoff heading or track 212 to Corsica above 3,000 feet. There we'll turn right, intercepting the 263 radio from Ajaccio, and continuing this there will be a point 21 DME where we'll start turning to the right to Urato, which is a point on the 288 radio from Ajaccio. So we'll have to have this VOR entered. And so initially we'll probably need 263. I'll just put it in the backup as well here. Excellent. Then RATNAV init B page, 0 fuel rate. Is this one block fuel 6.5 if I'm not mistaken? Yeah, 6.5 tons. That's the fuel planning done. Let's have a look again at the weight and balance here. If the passengers are all on board now, they are. And luckily the CG went back to 24.1. Good. Performance page, flaps 1, takeoff, 55 max temperature, transition altitude. What's the transition altitude here? 5,000 feet. So that's correct. And then we can calculate V1, rotate, and V2. Next phase, the climb phase, 250. And our approach is a 1028 QNH, so even better weather, and a temperature of 11 degrees. There you go. For our landing, we'll have the ILS, and then we can look at the bottom of the charts for the decision altitudes. so we are a category C airplane with an A320, so our decision altitude is 235 feet. We can put it in. Oops. Is our bottle height. Good, good, good. Everything coming together. We go around as normal values here. So, looking at our checklist, the MCDU data has been set up, the RADNAV page configured, the IRS is aligned, our flight plan has been reviewed, takeover briefing has been done, and that's the cockpit preparation done. So let's have a look at the pre-startup. Our APU master is on, APU started, MCU weights are inserted, takeoff performance is calculated, free speeds are there, APU bleed is on, external power is off, and the air conditioning is as required. So also the pre-startup checklist is complete. We can go for the pushback and startup now. Leaving the island here in Corsica. Let's call the tug for our pushback. Let's make sure our windows and doors are closed, so that's done. We're parked here, we have to taxi up north, let's say, so pushback facing north to go to runway 20. Alright, so windows and doors are closed, cockpit door is also closed, fuel pumps are on, beacon is not on yet. Let's turn on the beacon here. Steering pin into the transponder is to auto. Let's put the transponder to auto. And we'll also set the CG correctly. 24.4, 25, 24.4. TCAS to TARA above. Actually now it should still be on standby. While we taxi we have it on TARA. And then we can put the engine mode selector to ignition start and start engine number 2. In the meantime, we can release the parking brake, and request our pushback. We see that fuel flow is there, N2 is increasing, EGT is increasing, the N1 is also increasing. And 15%. This is available. We can start engine number 1 now. continue the turn. Colleague is landing over there. Runway 02. Where we'll take off in the opposite direction there. Okay, we stop the pushback here. We can put the parking brake and release the tug. I should put the clock to run here. Engine 1 starting. 30%. And it's also available now. So we can put the engine mode selector to norm. Let's put the flaps to takeoff on the spoilers. Put the auto brake to max. Turn off the APU. Turn off the APU bleed as well. Nose wheel lighting to taxi. Runway turn off lightings on. Strobe on. So before taxi checklist, auto brake is max. Spoilers are armed, flaps are takeoff position, engine anti-ice is required. Flight controls are not checked yet, so let's check the flight controls. Rudder to the left, full rudder to the right. Up elevator, down elevator, and ailerons to the left, ailerons to the right. Flight controls checked, steering pins removed, pitch trim is set to 24.4, and the rudder trim is reset. Before takeoff, before taxi checklist complete. So we're about to taxi. Taxi brake can go off. We advance the throttles a little bit. If you're not taxi speed, it's okay. Let's announce the cabin.
Flight attendants, please prepare for takeoff.
predictive winch here should go on, and our weather radar as well. Let's set the parking brakes for now. Turn on the takeoff lights, takeoff nose wheel lights. So before takeoff, cabin crew notified, external lights are all on, nose wheel lights are to takeoff, anti-ice is required, backs as required. TICAS, we put it to traffic alert and resolution advisory. Weather radar on, predictive winch on, weather mode as required, and takeoff memo no blue. So we're ready for takeoff before takeoff checklist complete. Check no one on the runway on the left, nor on the right. Seem to be a fighter jet coming over, or it's a normal plane. Oh, it's a very normal plane. Okay. Ready for takeoff, clear for takeoff, and we put 40% and one side stick forward, flex thrust. Release the back pressure on the stick. B1, rotate. Positive rate, gear up. Track of 212. Lever climb. Speed and taking the flaps. Disarm the spoilers. And off we go. At Codex we have to be above 3,000 feet, as you see here, and also on the charts. And then we'll do a right turn intercepting the Ajaccio VOR radio 263. And we continue our climb to flight level 330. Clearance to standard. Feet, so we can turn off the landing lights. Those are the lights we could have turned off earlier, then we turn off that as well. And the seatbelts can go off now. We'll go to our climb and let's have a look. Probably be here somewhere, just I'm going to assume that air traffic control now clears to BISBA. Is that 200 nautical miles? Quite relatively long distance. Let's calculate our top of descent to be prepared for our approach to Barcelona in a bit. So, assuming our cruising flight level will still be 330 and our target altitudes for the approach chart, let's have a look. Arrival in BISBA below flight level 250. Okay, here at that point we'd have to be at flight level 100. It's so the lowest. Yeah, this route should go flight level 130. So let's assume we want to go to flight level 130 before descending to flight level 100 until Charlie Lima Echo. So it's 20,000 feet to lose, so 60 nautical miles. And then I would say let's put in BISBA 60 nautical mile radius so that we are aware of when we have to descend, more or less. Increasing the range a little bit here so we know the there we'll have to descend more or less 160, so yeah, makes sense. And here you can see already one of those artifacts, this green line going there, so I think the approach will have to fly more or less manually, but let's see what happens. Straight for the Spanish coast over there. We'll leave France out of our way. In the meantime, let's also ask an update of the weather. Our altitude today is Toulouse, so over the Pyrenees. There's our meter. Barcelona 240, 9 knots. QNH of 1028. So the wind turned a little bit. But even in a more favorable direction for the runway that we're choosing. So let's put that information already into our performance page. 240, 9 knots. Transition altitude, what do we have here? Selected by ATC, since everything seems to be controlled by ATC. I'm not surprised. So let's leave it at 7,000. We put in the battle already for our ILS arrival, so that's fine. So I think most of the setup has been done now. We can enjoy a flight and have a little coffee or so. About 80 miles to go before our top of descent. And let's already put in the RadNav page for our descent, so that we're ready for that, and brief our descent as well. So when arriving in BISBA, we'll fly outbound on track 245 and flight level 130 to Bahur, and from there to the initial approach wing, Charlie Lima Echo. So this is all still in the flight plan, so let's have a look. BISBA, Bahur, Chile. Yeah, so these points are normally nicely coded, although this one I don't recognize, but it's, yeah, should be okay. The speed restriction of 215 knots at flight level 100. That must be this one. Okay, so that's nice. Programmed. Next points, these seem like RadNav transition points. So indeed, from here we'll go to BL443, BL439, BL435, BL431, and so on. So at any point during the transition, they might be able to clear us directly to either BL423, BL419, BL415, or Tebla initial approach for the ILS here. Tebla we have to be at 2,300 feet, quite clear. So we have to reduce our altitudes as we go. If we will be cleared from here immediately to Tebla, that's 5 nautical miles to lose 2,300 feet if we are at the lowest one. So yeah, we have to make sure that our altitudes are matching up there. But for now we can continue flight level 130 to flight level 100 to here flight level 80 maximum. So we have time to slow down and lose altitude in this case. Going to the ILS, we also don't need lots of other nav aids. We just have to be sure that our ILS frequency is tuned correctly. BCA 1095 is 1095 correct for this approach, and a 245 course for the ILS, so that's also fine. I'll remove those VORs because they will be in the best case confusing, in the worst case making our life more difficult. BC and Barcelona VOR, let's put this one in, as we are dependent on this for the missed approach at 5 DME. We'll have to do something. Turn left and intercept at 242 from BCN, so let's put a 242 already in there. Also here we have distances to the BCN. As you see, it's a couple of decimal nautical miles before the one from the ILS, so you see that they're not co-located. This approach is quite clear at 5D and me from BCN. we have to continue the procedure. Here we don't have any special limitations. RVR 5550, but it's a very beautiful day at the moment. So we can more or less make it out here, where we will follow the arrival parallel, going back and then intercepting the ILS. BISBA 100 nautical miles now. And we should start our descent at 63 before, so we have a bit of time left. And in distance we can already make out land in Spain. Alright, we're at our top of descent. 17 nautical miles from BISBA. Let's go to flight level 130. Managed descent. Half an hour since we started our engines, so quite a short flight. Let's put the TCAS to below. Can't really make it out. Yes. And if you look at the route that we followed in the end, it was indeed quite a shortcut that we did here. We didn't have to go all the way to Marseille or wherever here. changed the time a little bit. I was hoping that it was going to be dark by the time we were there, but then I noticed that the time setting in Flight Simulator was not correct, so I'm updating it now. And this should make for some more interesting lightning when arriving. Flight level 200 and descending to 130. $50 nautical miles going to go to BISBA. And there we are, 130, flight level 130, and just before BISBA. That's some nice timing. Center flight level 100. level landing into the sun, it seems. So for our descent checklist, our MCU landing performance has been reviewed. The TCAS is set to below. Approach briefing has been completed. Nav 8 are reviewed. Anti-eyes as required. The IFIS navigation display has its constraints on. Seatbelt signs as required. We can leave them out for a bit longer still. Baro sets at transition level, which is 7,000 feet. So that's for later. Below 10,000 feet, we'll turn on the seatbelt signs, landing lights and the wing lights. For now I'll put on the landing lights already. And the wing lights as well. Reducing speed to 250 knots. Overhead bagoor. Get rid of the help circle, the arc that we put in the fix info page here. Let's clear out this waypoint. I will add, just for convenience, an extension of the center of the runway. and also of the missed approach track. So we're coming nearer and nearer to our initial approach fix, the CLE, Charlie Lima Echo, which is the end of our star here. From there we'll transition to the ILS procedure by following all those navigates first, turning left and turning outbound, then turning back inbound on the ILS localizer and glide slope. This will help us lose altitude as well. We could already plan for losing altitude here, and from this initial approach fix go straight to one of those RNF points in case we would have been cleared by ATC for doing so. For now we'll just follow the procedure. It will take quite a bit longer, but in case there would be lots of traffic, this is a possibility that you would have to fly these kind of points. So we'll descend to flight level 80 now. So imagine we're clear now to Bravo Lima 431. Here we have a maximum of flight level 80, minimum 4,600, so we'll descend to 5,000 feet. And we'll also reduce our speed to 220. Switch to the QNH here, which is 1028. Yes, 1028. And now we'll get a direct to Bravo Lima 423. We'll activate the approach phase. Oh, and here the autopilot seems to decide differently on the routing, so let's do this part manually. Remember Tabla, we'd have to be at 2,300 feet, so we'll descend a bit more and put some speed brakes out. Although we have quite some distance to go. Speed restriction of 200 knots here. And we already have the localizer active. Glide slope is also active there. So turn on the autopilot once more. Lock capture. Altitude. I will put it to 2,300 feet. (19 DME from BCA, Bravo Charlie Alpha. Sun is just going down. Silver signs can go on now. There's Tebla, our initial approach point for the ILS. Should be 11 DME from BCA, Bravo Charlie Alpha. So in about 5 DME we are at Tebla, which matches with the arc here. At 2,300. To intercept the glide slope most likely. We see some kind of airport up front. This must be it. So again, briefing the missed approach procedure in case we have to go around. We continue 5 DME out of Barcelona, and then we join the 242 radio. Missed approach point. Seems to be about here. Not really defined the distances this time. There's our runway 25 right in front of us. Twelve nautical miles out. So manage speed goes to the S speed, it seems. But I thought I activated the approach phase. Okay, let's get our gear down. And second stage of flaps. And third stage of flaps. And flaps full. And low auto brake. Nose wheel lights are on, taxi turn off lights are on. Landing checklist. AFIS has required the navigation display in terrain as required. Gears down in green, external lights all on, nose wheel lights are takeoff, auto brake set, spoilers are armed, and flaps are landing no blue. We can notify the cabin.
Flight attendants, please prepare for landing.
And this didn't capture the glide slope. My fault. Let's correct that. So
$500. $400.
landing.
$300. 100 above. 200. Minimum.
Continue.
100. 50. 40. 30. 20. Retard. 10. 5.
Reverse is green. And we can take the high speed exit. turn off our landing lights and nose wheel and turn on the APU before we continue taxi. Going to terminal T2. I retract the flaps in the meantime. Disarm the spoilers. Colleague from Brussels Airlines is here, and KLM. And we set the parking brake, nice, at the gate. APU started, so we can turn off the engines. We can turn off the nose wheel lights, retract the landing lights, turn off, lights can go off. Predictive wind shear goes off and weather radar goes off. TCAS back to standby. And that's it. Alright, thank you guys for joining this second flight of the day. I hope you have a good time in Barcelona and hope to see you in one of the next streams. Have a good evening. Bye bye.